and keep them closed. We will begin our day with scripture reading and prayer by the chaplain, after which we will pledge allegiance to the flag of our country. Our chaplain this morning will be introduced by the lady from the 73rd House District, Representative Karen Mathiak. Representative Mathiak.
Good morning, and thank you, Mr. Speaker. It is my pleasure today to not only introduce the pastor of the day, but a great friend, Benny Tate from Milner, Georgia, and the gentleman that he has with him today is Pastor Don Knapp, Director of Missions, Pastor Larry Ballard, Men's Minister, and Pastor Charles Gilbert, their CFO, and I'm so glad to have you gentlemen with me today. Pastor Benny's church is very genuine, and I hope you will enjoy him and love him as much as I do.
Well, good morning. Great to be here. It's a great day, right? Great day. A few days back, my wife got up and she said, "Good morning." I said, "Good morning." She said, "Benny, do you know what today is?" And I began to think, what is today? And I went on to work and began to process. Is today our anniversary? Is today my wife's birthday? Tell you how to always remember your wife's birthday. Just forget it one year. Amen? But again, to think, what is it? But there's a lady in our church, runs a florist, and I said, "Send Barbara some flowers." She said, "What's the occasion?" I said, "It's a special occasion. Just send the flowers." There's a little boutique in Griffin, Georgia, where we do most of our shopping. I think the name of it's Walmart. I ran by there and picked her up a nice dress. I took it home, and I said, "Tonight we're going to go out for dinner." No need to heat up the kitchen, as if the microwave would do that, but we went out and we had a great dinner. And I said, "You know, Barbara," at the end of the evening, I said, "It's been a wonderful, wonderful day." She said, "It has been a wonderful day." I said, "You know, Barbara, I didn't forget, did I?" She said, "No, Benny, you didn't forget." She said, "You know, I believe it's been the greatest Groundhog's Day I've ever experienced." Folks, I want to take a few moments, and I say to you what Elizabeth Taylor said to her 8th husband. I'm not going to keep you long. But I am going to take a few moments, and I want to talk to you about we all having it. We all having it. There's a scripture in John 14:14, and this is what it says. "If you ask anything in my name, I'll do it." This is what I know about Speaker Ralston. He has an it. He probably has a lot of its. This is what I know about you. You have an it. I have an it. Your it may be a family issue. It may be a financial issue. It may be a decision issue. It may be a health issue. It may be a situation with a child. It may be a situation with your parents. But every one of us have an it. And the scripture says, if you ask anything in my name, I'll do it. You say, well, what causes God to do it? John 15:7 says, if you abide in me and my words abide in you, you shall ask what you will, and it shall be done unto you. 3 little words, and you can stick a fork in me, I'm done. Number 1 is abide. Abide. If you abide in me, what does that mean? It means to stay in fellowship. Stay in fellowship. I got married in 1984. 1984. My wife and I decided that divorce would not be a part of our vocabulary. Murder is, but divorce is not. If you went to the courthouse in Marion County, Tennessee, our license has been there, a marriage license, all this time. We've constantly been in relationship, but I want you to know we hadn't always been in fellowship. We hadn't always been in fellowship. I wrote the book, Happy Wife, Happy Life. If mom ain't happy, they ain't nobody happy. And if daddy ain't happy, they ain't nobody cares. You almost laughed. Let me tell you something. There's a difference between being in relationship and being in fellowship. And you can be in relationship with God and not be in fellowship with God. But God wants us to be in fellowship with Him. And what breaks relationship is sin. So that word I want you to see, it's abide. We got to be in fellowship with God. If you abide in me and my words abide in you, you shall ask. There's a second word I want you to get. Ask. James 4:2 says, we have not because we ask not. Listen, folks, I respect all of you. It matters not to me whether you're a Democrat or a Republican. I pastor 8,000 people, and I've got all different types. It matters not to me. But I want you to know something. We all need prayer. There was a guy who knew a little bit about politics. His name was Abraham Lincoln. And he said, I've been driven to my knees by an overwhelming conviction that I had nowhere else to go. My wisdom and all about me seemed insufficient for the day. Abraham Lincoln understood that we've got to ask somebody that's wiser than us. The answers for our country is not in Washington. The answer for our country is in heaven by turning to God Almighty and looking to Him for answers. So that little word abide, that little word ask, but then there's that last word. It's the word answer. I'm grateful that God's not reluctant to answer our prayers. God wants to answer your prayers, and God wants to answer my prayers. A little boy said to his dad one day, he said, you know, Daddy, I'd like a brother or sister. He said, well, you need to pray. So he prayed a month, prayed 2 months, he prayed 3 months. Nothing happened, so he quit praying. And Miss Susan, about 6 months later, his dad said, go with me. And he takes him down to the hospital and walks in there, and there's his mother. Pulls back the curtain, there's the little baby. Pulls back the curtain a little more, there's another baby. She'd had twins. Pulls back the curtain a little more, there's another baby. She'd had triplets. And the dad looked at his son and said, aren't you glad you prayed? He said, yeah, Daddy. But he said, aren't you glad I stopped after 3 months? I got up one morning to rush into the day. I had so much to accomplish, I didn't have time to pray. Problems just tumbled about me. Ever came each task. Why doesn't God help me? He replied, you didn't ask. I wanted to see joy and beauty, but the day toiled on gray and bleak. Why doesn't God help me? He replied, you didn't seek. I tried to come into God's presence. I used all my keys at the lock, but God gently and lovingly chided, oh, my child, but you didn't knock. Representatives, I got up this morning. I paused before I entered the day because we got so much to accomplish. We better take time to pray. Let's pray. Lord, as we bow our heads and our hearts in your presence, you tell us, if any man lack wisdom, let us ask of you. And God, I pray for these men and women. I thank you for their sacrifice. To serve in the House of Representatives is a sacrifice. They sacrifice their families. They sacrifice their time. They sacrifice their physical energy. They sacrifice their health. I thank you for these individuals, and I pray your blessing and your wisdom and your guidance upon them. Thank you for what they do for our state, and thank you for what they do for you. Now, would you bless them and keep them? Make your face to shine upon them, be gracious unto them. Lift your countenance upon them, and may they experience your peace. For I pray this prayer, respecting all faiths, but I pray this prayer in the name of your Son and our Savior, Jesus Christ. Amen.
Amen.
Let us pledge.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Speaker, good to see you.
You are always a blessing.
Well, you're kind, Speaker. Thank you.
Doorkeepers will unlock the doors. The chair recognizes Chairman Darlene Taylor, the chair of the Committee on Information and Audits.
Mr. Speaker, your Committee on Information and Audits has reviewed the proceedings of the previous legislative day and found them to be correct.
Chairman Taylor, the chair of the Committee on Information and Audits, reports that the journal of the previous legislative day has been read and found to be correct. Is there any objection to the confirmation of the journal? The chair hears none, and the journal is confirmed. The clerk will read the resolution establishing the order of business for the day.
Mr. Burns, on the 59th, moves following be established as the order of business on the first part of the period unanimous consents. Introduction of bills and resolutions. First reading and reference of House bills and resolutions. Second reading of bills and resolutions. First reading and reference of Senate bills and resolutions. Morning orders.
Is there any objection to the adoption of the resolution establishing the order of business for the day? The chair hears none, and the resolution is adopted. First reading of bills and resolutions. The clerk will read.
House Bill 976 by Representative Stevens, the 164th, and Smyrie, the 135th. Bill being entitled an act to amend Chapter 27, Title 50 of the Official Code of Georgia, annotated relating to lottery for education.
Regulated Industries.
House Bill 977 by Representatives Mathiak of the 73rd, Jaspers of the 11th, Price the 48th, lot of the 122nd, Rakestraw the 19th. Bill being entitled an act to amend Chapter 40, Title 31 of the Official Code of Georgia, annotated relating to tattoo studios.
Regulated Industries.
House Bill 979 by Representative Raffensperger of the 50th, Jones of the 25th, Martin of the 49th, Hilton of the 95th, and Willard of the 51st. Bill being entitled an act to amend an act to incorporate the city of Johns Creek in Fulton County.
Intergovernmental Coordination.
House Bill 980 by Representative Deffensbaugh of the 1st, Hill of the 3rd, Carpenter of the 4th, Harvard of the 2nd, Raffensperger of the 50th. Bill being entitled an act to authorize the governing authority of Dade County to levy an excise tax.
Intergovernmental Coordination.
House Bill 981 by Representative Willard of the 51st, Bruce of the 61st, Peasold of the 133rd, Clark of the 147th, Alexander of the 66th, and others. Bill being entitled an act to amend Code Section 17-17-12 and 35-3-37, the Official Code of Georgia, annotated relating to notification of victims.
Judiciary Non-Civil.
House Bill 982 by Representative Nimmer of the 178th, LaRicchia of the 169th, Ballinger of the 23rd, Corbett of the 174th, Rhodes of the 120th, and others. Bill being entitled an act to amend Article 3 of Chapter 11 of Title 15 of the Official Code of Georgia, annotated relating to dependency proceedings.
Juvenile Justice.
House Bill 983 by Representative Price of the 43rd, Dempsey of the 13th, Nix of the 69th, Raffensperger of the 50th, Brockway of the 102nd, and others. Bill being entitled an act to amend Code Section 19-15-2 of the Official Code of Georgia, annotated relating to Protocol Committee on Child
Juvenile
Abuse.
Justice.
House Bill 984 by Representative Park of the 101st, Trammell of the 132nd, Gonzalez of the 117th, Wallace of the 119th, Fry of the 118th, and others. Bill being entitled an act to amend Article 2, Chapter 7, Title 48 of the Official Code of Georgia, annotated relating to the imposition rate computation.
Ways and Means.
House Bill 985 by Representative McCall of the 33rd. Bill being entitled an act to amend an act to incorporate the town of Hull.
Intergovernmental Coordination.
House Bill 986 by Representative Nimmer of the 178th, Shaw of the 176th, Spencer of the 180th, LaRicchia of the 169th, and Corbett of the 174th. Bill being entitled an act to amend an act providing for the governing authority of each county comprising the Waycross Judicial Circuit.
Judiciary.
House Bill 987 by Representative Park of the 101st, Trammell of the 132nd, Gonzalez of the 117th, Wallace of the 119th, Alexander of the 66th, and others. Bill being entitled an act to provide for comprehensive state civil rights law.
Judiciary.
House Bill 988 by Representative Knight of the 130th, Burkle, 155th, Burns, the 159th, and Jaspers, the 11th. Bill being entitled an act to amend Code Section 27-3-4 of the Official Code of Georgia, annotated relating to legal weapons.
Game, Fish, and Parks.
House Bill 989 by Representative Dreyer of the 59th, Gardner of the 57th, and Harrell of the 106th. Bill being entitled an act to amend Part 1 of Article 2, Chapter 5 of Title 48 of the Official Code of Georgia, annotated relating to property tax exemptions.
Ways and Means.
House Bill 990 by Representative Dickerson of the 113th, Stevens of the 90th, Rutledge of the 109th, and Kirby of the 114th. Bill being entitled an act to amend an act providing for the compensation of the members and chairperson of the Board of Education of Rockdale County.
Intergovernmental coordination.
House Resolution 1257 by Representative Petrie of the 166th, Stevens of the 164th, Dempsey of the 13th, Gordon of the 163rd, LaHood of the 175th. Resolution creating the House Study Committee on Workforce Shortage and Crisis in Home and Community-Based Settings.
Special rules.
House Resolution 1258 by Representative Blackman of the 146th, Knight of the 130th, Houston of the 170th, Harrell of the 106th, and Bentley on the 139th. A resolution creating the House Study Committee on Equitable Taxation under Business and Occupation Taxes and Fees.
Special rules.
House Resolution 1259 by Representative Gassaway the 28th and Powell of the 32nd. A resolution honoring the life of Mr. Hoyt Dean Dink McCoy and dedicating a road in his memory.
Transportation.
House Resolution 1260 by Representative Ballinger the 23rd, Welch of the 110th, Golick of the 40th, Silcox of the 52nd, Reeves of the 34th. A resolution creating the House Study Committee on Juvenile Court Judges.
Juvenile justice.
House Resolution 1261 by Representative Werkheiser of the 157th. A resolution recognizing the United States military veterans and dedicating a highway in their honor.
Transportation.
House Resolution 1292 by Representatives Cooper of the 43rd, Silcox of the 52nd, Newton of the 123rd, Douglas of the 78th, Price of the 48th. A resolution urging the Georgia Alzheimer's and Related Dementia Advisory Council and Work Group to study providing access to quality long-term care.
Health and Human Services.
House Resolution 1293 by Representative Barr of the 103rd, Kelly of the 16th, Donahue of the 13th, of the 30th, Gillian of the 24th, Hitchens of the 161st, and others. A resolution urging the United States Congress to pass regulations from the Executive in Need of Scrutiny Act.
Special rules.
House Resolution 1294 by Representative Parker of the 101st, Trammell of the 132nd, Gonzalez of the 117th, Wallace of the 119th, Alexander of the 66th, and others. A resolution creating the Joint Study Committee on Comprehensive Civil Rights Legislation.
Judiciary.
Senate Bill 319 by Senator Albers, the 56th, Mullis, the 53rd, Gooch of the 51st, Miller of the 49th, Dugan of the 30th, and others. The bill being entitled an act to enact the Consolidation of Fire Safety Services in Georgia Act.
Public Safety and Homeland Security.
Senate Bill 364 by Senator Huffstetler of the 52nd, Underman of the 45th, Kirkpatrick of the 32nd, Auroch of the 36th, and Burke of the 11th. Bill being entitled an act to amend Code Section 43-34-103 the Official Code of Georgia Annotated relating the delegation of authority to physician's assistants.
Health and Human Services.
Senate Bill 365 by Senator Ligon of the 3rd, Kennedy of the 18th, Cowser of the 46th, Gooch of the 51st, Mullis of the 53rd, and others. A bill entitled an act to amend the Official Code of Georgia Annotated so as to revise, modernize, correct errors or admissions in.
Code revision.
Senate Bill 389 by Senator Walker of the 20th, Kennedy of the 18th, and Lucas of the 26th. Bill being entitled an act to amend and act create the established State Court of Houston County.
Intergovernmental coordination.
Senate Bill 410 by Senator Anderson of the 43rd and Strickland of the 17th. A bill being entitled an act to amend and act creating the Board of Elections and Registration of Rockdale County.
Intergovernmental coordination.
Senate Bill 440 by Senator Tillery of the 19th. Bill being entitled an act to amend and act provide for a new charter for the city of Soperton.
Intergovernmental coordination.
Senate Resolution 685 by Senator Jackson the 2nd, Jones the 10th, Anderson the 43rd, James the 35th, Butler the 55th, and others. A resolution renaming the bed of tidewater on the Georgia coast known as Runaway Negro Creek to Freedom Creek.
Governmental affairs.
That completes first readers.
Second reading of bills and resolutions. The clerk will read.
House Bill 958 by Representative Belton of the 112th, bill relating to safe place for newborns. House Bill 959 by Representative Ridley of the 6th, bill relating to inspection of public records. House Bill 960 by Representative Puzzold of the 133rd, a bill relating to general provisions for financial affairs. House Bill 961 by Representative Hansen of the 80th, a bill relating to organization of county government. House Bill 962 by Representative Gassaway of the 28th, a bill relating to excise tax on furnishing for value to the public of any rooms, lodgings, or accommodations. House Bill 963 by Representative Brockway of the 102nd, a bill relating to educational programs under the Quality Basic Education Act. House Bill 964 by Representative Jones of the 91st, a bill to amend an act providing for the compensation and members and chairperson of the Board of Education of Rockdale County. House Bill 965 by Representative Ridley of the 6th, a bill relating to motor vehicles and watercraft and all-terrain vehicles held in inventory. House Bill 966 by Representative Oliver of the 82nd, a bill relating to general provisions for the Juvenile Code. House Bill 967 by Representative Beverly of the 143rd, a bill relating to revenue and taxation. House Bill 968 by Representative Jackson of the 128th, a bill relating to probation. House Bill 970 by Representative Dreyer of the 59th, the bill relating to carrying weapons in unauthorized locations. House Bill 971 by Representative Chandler of the 105th, bill relating to miscellaneous provisions. House Bill 972 by Representative Willard of the 51st, a bill relating to the Juvenile Code and powers and duties of the Department of Human Services. House Bill 973 by Representative Jones of the 47th, a bill relating to ethics in government. House Bill 974 by Representative Martin of the 49th, a bill relating to state health planning and development. House Bill 975 by Representative Gassaway of the 28th, a bill relating to solid waste management. House Bill 978 by Representative Nimmer of the 178th, a bill relating to school buses. House Resolution 1224 by Representative Gonzalez of the 117th, resolution creating the House Study Committee on Establishment of a Living Wage. House Resolution 1225 by Representative Prince of the 127th, a resolution urging Congress to pass the Building Rail Access for Customers and Economy Act. House Resolution 1226 by Representative Clark of the 98th, a resolution creating the Joint Study Committee on Combat Sports. Senate Bill 184 by Senator Hofstetler of the 52nd, a bill relating to the Office of Planning and Budget. Senate Bill 262 by Senator Jeffers of the 17th, a bill relating to amend an act to provide a new charter for the City of Stockbridge. Senate Bill 263 by Senator Jeffers of the 17th, a bill to incorporate the City of Eagles Landing. Senate Bill 301 by Senator Kennedy of the 18th, a bill relating to wills, trusts, and administration of estates. Senate Bill 330 by Senator Wilkinson of the 50th, a bill relating to the Quality Basic Education Act. Senate Bill 356 by Senator Kirkpatrick of the 32nd, a bill relating to the Georgia Commission on the Holocaust. Senate Bill 371 by Senator Anderson of the 24th, a bill relating to confidential information secured in the administration of taxes. Senate Bill 381 by Senator Thompson of the 14th, a bill relating to surplus line insurance. Through second readers.
Reports of standing committees. The clerk will read.
Representative Reinders, Chairman of the Committee on Governmental Affairs, submitted the following report. Mr. Speaker, your Committee on Governmental Affairs had under consideration the following bills of the House. It is instructed me to report the same back to the House. Following recommendations: House Bill 642 do pass by substitute. House Bill 899 do pass by substitute. House Bill 961 do pass. Respectfully submitted, Representative Ed Reinders of the 152nd District Chairman. Representative Werkheiser of the 157th District Chairman on the Committee on Industry and Labor submitted the following report. Mr. Speaker, your Committee on Industry and Labor has had under consideration the following bill of the House and has instructed me to report the same back to the House with the following recommendations. House Bill 831 do pass by substitute. Respectfully submitted, Representative Werkheiser of the 157th District Chairman. Representative Golick of the 40th District Chairman on Committee on Judiciary Non-Civil submitted the following report. Mr. Speaker, your Committee on Judiciary Non-Civil has had under consideration the following bills of the House. It has instructed me to report the same back to the House with the following recommendations. House Bill 765 do pass by substitute. House Bill 803 do pass by substitute. House Bill 673 do pass by substitute. Respectfully submitted, Representative Golick of the 40th District Chairman. Representative Lynn Smith, the 70th District Chairman on the Committee on Natural Resources and Environment, submitted the following report. Mr. Speaker, your Committee on Natural Resources and Environment has had under consideration the following bills of the House. It has instructed me to report the same back to the House with the following recommendations. House Bill 879 do pass by substitute. House Bill 332 do pass by substitute. House Bill 885 do pass by substitute. Respectfully submitted, Representative Lynn Smith, the 70th District Chairman.
All right. We dispensed with the roll call earlier this morning due to the meeting of the Rules Committee. I'm going to ask the clerk to ring the bell, and we're going to take the morning roll call here momentarily. All members will report to the floor of the House so we can do roll call. We are going to have the morning roll call. All members present will please vote green to signify their presence in the chamber, and the clerk will unlock the machines. Have all members voted? Have all members voted? If so, the clerk will lock the machines. I want the House to come to order. We have a very special guest with us today, and I'm going to recognize Representative Rick Williams to introduce him momentarily. I know that all of you would agree that President John Kennedy was one of the great presidents of the 20th century. I'm actually a little young to remember a whole lot about his presidency, but I do remember the aftermath and the fact that he had a younger brother named Bobby Kennedy, who I'm convinced would have been president had a tragedy not happened in LA in 1968. And we're honored to have with us this morning, and I'm going to have Representative Williams introduce him, Robert F. Kennedy, Jr. Chair recognizes Representative Rick Williams.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for your attention. I don't know anything to say other than I am humbled by the Speaker of this House and Senator Bobby Kennedy, Jr. Let's give him a warm welcome. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and thank you, Rick. And I'm not going to take up much of your time. I just want to thank all of you for your public service. My uncle, Teddy Kennedy, often had his colleagues from the United States Senate during his 50 years in the Senate. He had them come to Cape Cod to visit the family every weekend, and he usually alternated between Republicans and Democrats. He got along with everybody in the Senate because he identified with everybody, because he understood that people who made a commitment to politics were making a commitment of great sacrifice and great difficulty, and that all of them, although they may differ on political issues, particular political issues, shared the burdens of campaigning, of empathizing, of speaking to people, of long weeks away from their families, and all the other kind of sacrifices that have to be made. So I honor all of you for what you do, for taking on the public burden, for taking on the public wheel and the public service, and I thank you for having me. Thank you.
Chair recognizes the Majority Caucus Whip, Representative Coomer, to introduce the Doctor of the Day.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. It's my honor to introduce to the House Dr. Brad Bushnell, MD, MBA. Dr. Bushnell's from Athens, go Dogs, and received his undergraduate from Vanderbilt and his doctorate in medicine from Medical College of Georgia. He performed his residency in orthopedic surgery at UNC Chapel Hill. Currently, he's the chairman of the Department of Orthopedics and Sports Medicine at Harbin Clinic in Rome, my doctors, and serves as the lead team physician for the Rome Braves. He's also an assistant clinical professor of orthopedic surgery at MCG. He serves on the board of directors for Boys and Girls Clubs of Northwest Georgia, board of trustees for Berry College, and is a reserve sheriff's deputy and SWAT medical officer in Rome, and lives in my district. Please welcome Dr. Bushnell.
Good morning, everyone. Just wanted to thank you for the opportunity to serve as Doctor of the Day today. I just came over from the Senate, and even though MAG tells us we're not supposed to lobby for bills, we're working on a nice little bipartisan one to guarantee this kind of weather in February of every year. And we've decided that that's going to be really great for the health of the citizens of Georgia. But in all seriousness, thanks to each of you for the service and sacrifice that you provide and the hard work you do this time of year. And on behalf of the medical community, thank you for what you do to promote the health and welfare of our citizens. And again, thank you for the opportunity to be here.
Okay, if I could have your attention, please. House will come to order. I told you early on, we've got a very busy day. So what we're going to do, we have the State of the Judiciary here in a few minutes, but we are going to begin on morning orders. I'm fairly certain we won't finish, but at least we will get a few of them done. Chair recognizes for a morning order Representative Susan Holmes.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Ladies and gentlemen, I am thrilled today to have my hometown folks here today. City of Monticello officials, mayor, and council, would y'all please stand? I'm so proud of this group, so glad y'all are here. Please join me in welcoming them to the house. Love you guys.
Chair recognizes for a morning order Speaker Pro Tem Jones, Chairman Tom Taylor, Chairman Bill Werkheiser.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Today is a fencing day at the Capitol, and that we're not talking about building picket fences or chain link fences. We have about 100 young fencers down here today from the Georgia High School Fencing League. I'd like to have them stand and be recognized in the gallery. If you're up there. Okay. So the big treat today is these folks will be down in the rotunda doing some demonstrations and all, but at the end of the day, the Chairman Werkheiser and I are having duels with two senators. He gets Blake Tillery and I get William Ligon. We'd appreciate you supporting us as cheerleaders and welcome to fencers. Thank you.
I noticed y'all didn't let the Pro Tem have the sword. Smart guys.
Sharp object.
Chair recognizes Chairman Coleman for a morning order.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Members of the House, it's a real pleasure for me today to introduce some very special people. Up in the gallery over here to my left, I have one of my former students and her husband and daughter, and her son. But what's really important, bringing with them, is the principal of probably the #1 STEAM middle school in the nation, and that's the principal of Coleman Middle School. So all these people stand up and y'all give them a welcome. Beth, y'all stand up. Let's give them a big welcome to our Capitol.
Chair recognizes Representative Cannon for a morning order.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I stand to introduce to the House some influential people from District 58. We first have Dr. Edith Biggers, who has been with Fulton County's HIV division for years. And I also just am thankful that we have some great professors from UGA. I'm not sure if they've made it into the gallery, but thank them for being here today. Thank you.
Chair recognizes Representative Bodie, Representative Prince, and Representative Vernon Jones for a morning order.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Not sure where Representative Bodie is, but we wanted to recognize the men of Kappa Alpha Psi Fraternity Incorporated. It was founded in 1911, January the 5th, way back in the day on the Indiana University's campus. Our ultimate goal is to achievement in every field of human endeavor. And I think they're on the Senate side now, but they'll be over later. We're here as they walk in now. We're recognizing the brothers from Kappa Alpha Psi. Please join me in welcoming the brothers. Thank you.
Chair recognizes Representative Stovall for a morning order.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker and members of the House. This morning, I would like to give my moment in Black history. In 1997, there was a New York Times article stating that more than 40 years after Rosa Parks refused to give up her seat to a white passenger on a bus, the opening salvo in which became the Montgomery, Alabama bus boycott, Mrs. Parks was trying to set up one of the first charter schools in Detroit. Charter schools are run by many groups, including civil rights advocates, such as what Ms. Parks decided to do in Detroit. The consultants that were working with her on this project said that their goal was to make sure parents know there are options out there that are not bound by where they live and how much money they make. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Okay, we've still got some morning orders, but we are, I'm told, about 2 to 3 minutes away from the Senate arriving. So what I'm going to do is suspend further House business, but I am going to ask members of the House to please flee the anterooms and the hallways, come into the chamber, take your seats, and let's begin coming to order. Okay, Mr. Clerk, I think I'm going to open a hot dog stand up here at the podium. Increase participation in the legislative process. Would you please ring the bell and let's get everybody in here? House will come to order. All members, please take seats immediately. All members. Mr. Doorkeeper.
Mr. Speaker, the President Pro Tem, and the members of the Senate await entrance to this House chamber.
Mr. Doorkeeper, please allow the President Pro Tem, and the members of the Senate to enter the House chamber, and the messenger will escort them to their designated seats. Could I ask all members of the joint session to please take your seats? All members, please take your seats. It is my great honor and pleasure at this time to introduce a friend of many years, a great working partner here in this General Assembly, and a great advocate for Georgia, our great Lieutenant Governor, Governor Casey Cagle.
All right. Thank you so much. I appreciate that. Thank you. Thank you all very, very much. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Thank you very much, members of the General Assembly. The joint session will come to order. All members, please take your seats at this time. I recognize now the Sergeant of Arms.
Mr. President, the Chief Justice of the Supreme Court, the Honorable Harris Hinds, Justices of the Supreme Court, Judges of the Court of Appeals, await to enter this chamber.
Thank you, Mr. Sergeant at Arms. Please allow the Honorable Harris Hinds, Chief Justice of the Supreme Court, the Justices of the Supreme Court, and the Judges of the Court of Appeals to access the chamber at this time. All members, please take your seats at this time. Would ask all members to take your seats for this joint session as we are about to begin. Would ask the clerk to read a resolution at this time.
House Resolution 1196 by Representative Burns, the 159th, a resolution calling a joint session of the House of Representatives and the Senate for the purposes of hearing a message from the Chief Justice of the Supreme Court, inviting each other Justice of the Supreme Court and each Judge of the Court of Appeals to be present at the joint session and for other purposes.
Thank you, Mr. Clerk. I would like to recognize some special guests that are with us today in the gallery and would ask that you join me as we recognize so many individuals here today. Obviously, it goes without saying, the man that leads this great body, a person who has been a dear friend of mine for over 2 decades. I have followed his career, and I have seen his character and his integrity and the way he leads, and he is a great, great person and a great speaker as well. The man from Blue Ridge, please join me, Speaker David Ralston. Also, please join me in welcoming as well the lady from Milton, a lady who always has grace and also a strong hand to get things done. The Speaker Pro Tem, Jan Jones. Great to recognize you as well. And the man from Chestnut Mountain, a neighbor, a friend, and a car salesman. Butch Miller, President Pro Tem. I've been waiting to do that for some time, actually. Also, all the constitutional officers of the state of Georgia that are present with us, if you would stand and allow us to recognize you at this time. Thank you all for joining us. Would also ask the justices of the Supreme Court to stand so we could recognize you at this time. Good. And the judges of the Court of Appeals, if you would stand as we recognize you. And members of the Consular Corps that might be present with us in the gallery, we'd like for you to stand as we recognize you as well. Thank you all. And I would be remiss if I didn't recognize the First Lady of the State Senate, my beautiful bride, Nita Cagle, who's with us today as well. It is now my honor to introduce to you our Chief Justice of the state of Georgia, the Honorable Harris Hinds, along with his wonderful wife, Helen, his son, Hap, and his daughter-in-law, Kelly, that are present with us today. He is an Atlanta native, and many of you know him well, as I do. He is a graduate of Emory University in 1965 and also graduated from Emory University Law School in 1968. He was admitted to the State Bar of Georgia in the same year. He served in both the State Court and Superior Court in Cobb County. He was appointed by the great Governor Zell Miller back in 1995 and obviously sworn in as the Chief Justice under our current great governor, being Governor Nathan Deal. Today, as the Chief Justice, he chairs the Judicial Council, which is the policy-making body for Georgia's judicial branch. He has also served as the chair of the Supreme Court, the Justice for Children Committee, and his numerous other civic and religious awards that we all recognize. But possibly and most impressively is the fact that he is an Eagle Scout. Even in his formative years, he recognized that his duty to God and country and to others is where true service begins. Ladies and gentlemen, please join me in welcoming our wonderful, honorable Harris Hinds, Chief Justice of the Supreme Court. Thank you so much. Great, thank you. Good, good. Okay.
Well, thank you. Lieutenant Governor Cagle, Speaker Ralston, members of the General Assembly, my fellow justices, judges of the Court of Appeals, judges of the other classes of courts, ladies and gentlemen. The year 2018 will be a year of great change and great promise for our state. We will elect a new governor and lieutenant governor, and we will say an appreciative goodbye to a truly outstanding leader, Governor Nathan Deal. And because at my core I am a son of the law, I wish to thank two lawyer representatives, Wendell Willard and Rich Golick, who will retire from the House this year, for their service to our state. Thank you. By this time next year, new freshman legislators will walk the halls of this beautiful Capitol building and will have taken their seats among many of you seasoned senators and representatives, and will join with you in making the decisions that directly impact the lives of all Georgians. 2018 will also be a year of change and promise for the third branch of government, the judiciary. Throughout Georgia, many new judges will don their robes of office for the first time. Our citizens will elect a new justice to our Supreme Court, and Governor Deal will make his fifth appointment to the court. The members of the Supreme Court will choose a new Chief Justice who will lead Georgia's judicial system. And I'll give you a heads up, the smart money is on Presiding Justice Harold Melton. I am confident that when I leave the bench as Georgia's Chief Justice at the end of August, after a legal career that began in 1968, Georgia's judiciary will be steady, strong, and situated to become the best it has ever been. On behalf of the judges of Georgia, I thank you, senators, representatives, and Governor Deal for your support of Georgia's judiciary. Your belief in an independent, nonpartisan, and nonpolitical third branch of government has been manifested by the creation of additional justices and judges for our state's two appellate courts, by passage of legislation that has made both Georgia's Supreme Court and Court of Appeals more efficient, productive, and effective in interpreting and clarifying the law, and by recognizing the hard work of those who sit upon Georgia's benches of justice, by rewarding them with appropriate and appreciated compensation. Construction has already begun on a magnificent structure that will be the first state judicial building that is dedicated solely to the appellate courts of Georgia. Each and every justice of the Supreme Court and each and every judge of the Court of Appeals recognizes full well that we are being given a building which we did not toil to build, but wherein we are permitted for a finite period of time to work and hopefully burnish the rule of law. In my time as a lawyer and a judge, among the most dramatic changes I have seen take place in our state is its dynamic growth. In 2017, we were among the top 10 fastest growing states in the nation. And today, we are the 8th most populous. I repeat, we are the 8th most populous. Growth brings opportunity, and it is no surprise that for the 5th year in a row, Georgia has been named the #1 state in the nation to do business. One of the necessary preconditions to successfully doing business is the rule of law. Knowing that contracts will be enforced as written, knowing that the law will be applied as drafted by the legislature, and knowing that there is an orderly, reasonable, and fair process for resolving disputes. The Court Reform Council has recommended the creation of a statewide business court. If you, the members of the General Assembly, approve a constitutional amendment, and the voters endorse it by a 2/3 vote, this court will have jurisdiction similar in certain ways to our federal courts, and also have the expertise to handle complex financial cases. It would operate similarly to the specialized business courts now operating in Fulton and Gwinnett counties. I hope this initiative meets with your approval. A sea change I have witnessed in my years as a judge is how we view and respond to criminal behavior. We've become smarter, more precise, and more just. As a result, the courts are doing a better job of protecting society, saving taxpayer dollars, and restoring families. Criminal justice reform has been a hallmark of Governor Deal's administration, as it has been for many of you legislators. And it is not just the policy changes that you have made in criminal procedures that make Georgia a national leader in this movement, but the nonpartisan and collaborative way in which it has been achieved. My friend and colleague, Justice Michael Boggs, has served since 2012 with ability, commitment, and passion as co-chair of the Governor's Criminal Justice Reform Council. Under the leadership of Governor Deal, you ladies and gentlemen of the legislature and Georgia's judges, policy changes in our criminal justice system have accomplished 3 goals. They have ensured that we hold accountable those who violate the law. They have improved public safety by reducing the recidivism rate, and they have saved money. Expensive prison commitments overall are down in Georgia, with 2017 having the lowest number since 22. Also, the crime rate is down 6%. Most dramatically, prison commitments among African American citizens have dropped more than 30% between 29 and 2016. The number of African Americans entering the prison system in 2016 was its lowest since 1987. This, ladies and gentlemen, is historic and worth celebrating. We have made progress not just with low-risk adults who commit nonviolent property and drug offenses, but also with the young people of our state. Juveniles often are drivers of the adult criminal justice system. Locking up a youth is not only costly at approximately $90,000 a year, it is also often ineffective. Nearly 2/3 of juvenile offenders reoffend in 3 years. Before criminal justice reform, Georgians received a poor public safety return on their investment. Many communities did not have alternative placements for these youth. Thanks to you, the legislature, increasingly they now do. You rewrote the juvenile code and appropriated $7 million for communities to develop alternatives to locking up young people in the state's youth jails and prisons. And look what has happened. After challenging the counties that serve 70% of Georgia's at-risk youth to divert 15% of their delinquents away from incarceration, those counties heeded the call and have directed 54%, resulting in the number of youth in confinement statewide dropping 36%. We know that for many of these young people, what works best to prevent criminal behavior are professional interventions and family therapy. These alternatives in no way represent a turn toward becoming soft on crime. They represent progress in turning around troubled youth before they graduate to the adult criminal justice system as hardened, institutionalized offenders. A jump out at you highlight of criminal justice reform has been the success of what are called accountability courts, drug courts, mental health courts, veterans courts, and the like. These specialized courts hold accountable low-risk, nonviolent offenders who have made mistakes in their lives while giving them a second chance. These courts require time, energy, and commitment from our judges, and they are demanding of participants, but they work. Validated studies have proven over and over again that drug courts produce a better public safety outcome than incarceration, and at a significantly reduced cost. In the past, we dealt with illegal drug use and nonviolent illegal behavior caused by mental illness strictly as a criminal justice issue. We often had tunnel vision and saw incarceration as the only solution. As Justice Boggs is fond of saying, everybody believes in an eye for an eye and a tooth for a tooth. You do the crime, you do the time, until it is your child or other family member who is accused. But we have learned we do a much better job of protecting the public by treating the whole person and the root causes of one's crime. We have learned that a homeless veteran found passed out on a sidewalk, a man who may have slept with snakes in Vietnam while serving our country, may be suffering from post-traumatic stress disorder and has turned to alcohol as a result. Locking him up is most probably not the best solution. Today, I am proud to announce that as of last month, every single judicial circuit in Georgia now has at least one, if not more, accountability courts. In 6 years, the number of participants in these courts has nearly tripled. It is thanks to the support of our governor and to you, and the commitment and foresight of our state's judges, that Georgia is way out front in criminal justice reform. In the future, our successes will for certain grow, for I know that our state's judges, many of whom are here today, are creative people and are committed to making our courts work for a better Georgia. I want to give you an example of this creativity. Back in 2012, Judge Brian Amero, a Superior Court judge in Henry County, became increasingly frustrated about the handling of defendants who failed to pay child support. He witnessed numerous litigants representing themselves who were significantly behind in child support payments and hadn't worked for a year or longer. Most were fathers, and when a prosecutor would ask a man why he wasn't working and taking care of his children, the man would typically simply shrug his shoulders. Judge Amero said he got the feeling many had given up trying to pay, believing they were in a hole and could not get out. The only legal remedy was to hold them in contempt of court and put them in jail. But watching this process, the judge realized everybody loses. The father goes to jail, costing the county money. What little stability he had diminishes, and he falls further behind in his payments. The mother loses as she receives no support for their children, and most importantly, the children lose, lacking any support, and often believing their father is in jail because of them. It was a bad, repetitive cycle. But one day, Judge Amero thought to himself, why not try a different model? He began assigning each delinquent parent a case manager who helped the parent obtain job skills if needed, find work, keep work, solve transportation problems, and overcome substance or alcohol abuse. The parent was told, you are required to manage your child support responsibilities better. But if you prove you're working 40 hours a week or looking for work 40 hours a week and making a legitimate effort to pay your child support, you won't be incarcerated. Judge Amero is as passionate about these parental accountability courts as Justice Boggs is about criminal justice reform. As he says, the numbers have been phenomenal. The fact is, once the parents get help with their underlying problems, most start financially supporting their children. In 6 years of existence, these courts have helped almost 5,000 parents, mostly fathers, avoid jail time and pay more than $5 million in support for more than 7,000 Georgia children. Additionally, they have saved counties more than $10 million in incarceration cost. As of now, parental accountability courts operate in 33 of Georgia's 49 judicial circuits. The goal is to roll them out in every judicial circuit of the state. With accountability courts, the stories of rehabilitated individuals best illustrate their success. Another such story involves a man who began abusing alcohol after an acrimonious divorce. He became estranged from his children and lost his job. But following his arrest for failing to pay child support, he became a participant in the accountability court in Pickens County. Because of that court, he regained his financial footing. With his newfound employment, he began making his child support payments. And most importantly, he restored his relationships with his children. His best reward came the day he received a call from his oldest daughter. She wanted a dress for the high school prom. With his new lease on life, he was able to step up and buy it for her. He describes it as one of the happiest moments of his life. Since then, he has remained sober for more than 3 years and spends at least 1 week a month with his children. My friends, anytime we can safely reunite fathers, mothers, and their children, we are helping to strengthen families, our communities, and our state. This is noble work indeed. Safely restoring families, protecting babies and children from abuse and neglect, steering troublesome youth, the mentally ill, and the drug addicted away from incarceration are among the ways we can substantially lower the burden on our criminal courts and reduce our prison population. Now, we live in a technological, fast-paced age, and our courts must keep pace to serve those who have cases before them. One success story of importance has been the establishment of a statewide portal to bring ready access to our courts. Before year's end, it is hoped that lawyers and others will be able to go to a singular website and, using one password, electronically access information about cases in courts throughout Georgia. Presently, people must go physically or electronically to individual counties and use as many different passwords as there are vendors to gain information about their cases. This comprehensive, one-stop shop for the judiciary will change that. Efficiency will be improved, time and money will be saved, and justice will be administered more quickly. It has not been easy achieving reformation of this magnitude within a non-unified judiciary, and I'm most grateful to Presiding Justice Harold Melton for heading this effort, and I also thank the legislature for its necessary financial leadership in achieving this long-sought goal. Other important technological improvements have taken place in the Supreme Court and Court of Appeals. Case filings are now accepted electronically, and records from trial courts reach our appellate courts by electronic means. Again, efficiency is improved, time and money is saved, and justice is more quickly achieved. Justice David Namias rightfully refers to the architect of this endeavor in the Supreme Court as Mother Teresa, an identity ascribed with respect and affection to our clerk and court executive, Ms. T. Barnes, who is the personification of grace and professionalism. If you will, allow me to call to your attention and ask for your help in solving a problem, a significant problem, facing our state. We do not have enough foster homes, and children who do not grow up in loving families are the ones who often wind up in our courts. By the end of this year, some 14,000 of Georgia's children are expected to be in our foster care system, a surge of 55% in the last 3 years. At the same time, the number of foster families has diminished. The increase in the number of children in foster care has been fueled in part by illegal drug usage, including illicit use of opioids. Nationally, the number of children in foster care has tripled since 2012. Even if we had significantly more foster homes, we know that children who grow up in foster care and age out of the system generally do not do as well as those who grow up in intact families. Being removed from their family is traumatic for children, even if it is necessary for their safety. Many develop mental health problems and struggle with addiction. They are more likely to become homeless and less likely to graduate from high school or attend college. Ladies and gentlemen, at their best, foster homes can only attempt to replicate a loving, nurturing environment for the children who live in them. But I am an optimist, for I see progress being made. Last year, you approved a 19% pay raise for additional child welfare workers and pumped an additional $19 million into the foster care system. And already we are seeing positive results. The Division of Family and Children's Services reports that it has an expanded and more stable workforce of frontline Child Protective Services workers, with a turnover rate that has shrunk from nearly 40% to 10%. The percentage of foster children placed with relatives has increased, and the number of times children must be moved from one placement to the next has decreased. For your helpful action, again, I say thank you. Our Constitution says that an adequate public education for the citizens shall be a primary state obligation. And I ask you to look favorably upon early learning initiatives and the bringing together of community organizations and our schools to ensure that when each child enters his or her classroom, he or she is well fed, well clothed, well rested, and ready to learn. I assure you that if we can obtain these goals, grades will improve, graduation rates will increase, and suspensions will decrease. We either invest in our children now or pay a high price later. Another challenge facing our state is that far too many of our citizens with mental health problems continue to wind up in our jails and prisons. More than half of all Georgians who were admitted to our prisons in 2016 had a diagnosed mental health issue. We simply cannot let our prisons be our front line and most populous mental health facilities. Access to justice remains an issue of concern. Too many hard-working, good, decent Georgians simply cannot afford a lawyer to handle civil matters that often involve ownership of property, debt collection, landlord-tenant disputes, and other similar everyday legal matters. Please, ladies and gentlemen of the legislature, look carefully at this situation. Another area where change is needed is how bail is set, particularly for misdemeanor offenders. In its final year before it is due to sunset, the Council on Criminal Justice Reform is recommending to you measures for changing this system. People cannot be kept in jail because of poverty alone. I ask that you give the Council's recommendations your careful attention. Although the serious issues facing our great state are many and complex, I have the utmost faith in our three branches of government to directly confront and solve them. I know that solutions will not be easy, but let us not be deterred from our task to make Georgia a shining beacon of opportunity for all its citizens. I once asked my son Hap, when he was kicking for the Bulldogs, if he ever became afraid when he was attempting a last-minute, long-distance field goal to win or tie a game in front of 90,000 people. His answer was short and to the point. Sure, Dad, but you just have to play through it. We, the executive, legislative, and judicial branches of government, just have to play through the problems we face for our team, the people of Georgia. As I approach the end of these remarks, please allow me to express some points of personal privilege. I know for certain that the courts of Georgia are in good hands and that Georgia's judiciary is better equipped and better prepared to serve a growing population and to correctly resolve the complex issues which are attendant thereto than ever before. Last year, Governor Deal appointed 3 new justices to the Supreme Court: Justice Mike Boggs, Justice Nels Peterson, and Justice Britt Grant. Each is as bright as a new penny. I'll say that again. Each is as bright as a new penny. They have impeccable credentials. They represent a new generation of Georgians. They bring great energy to this bench, innovative solutions to legal questions, and they are good people and good colleagues. Ladies and gentlemen, I tell you without reservation that each and every member of the court upon which I am privileged to sit as Chief Justice understands the doctrine of separation of powers. The legislature writes the law. The judiciary does its best to interpret and clarify it. And in so doing, we seek to hear the quiet but clear voices of our better angels who speak in our ears the directive emblazoned upon or above the bench of the Supreme Court of Georgia. Fiat justitia ruat caelum. Let justice be done, though the heavens may fall. Presiding Justice Melton, Justice Benham, Justice Hunstein, Justice Namias, Justice Blackwell, Justice Boggs, Justice Peterson, and Justice Grant, it is an honor to serve with you, as it has been an honor to serve with the other justices who have preceded me on our state's bench. Serving as Chief Justice has been the highlight of my legal career. I have been blessed to work with so very many fine public servants. I have made countless friends and benefited from a wonderful staff. As I close, I repeat that my legal career began in 1968 when I was admitted to the bar of our state. I was a young attorney then, and now I'm an old judge. I have tried cases as an attorney. I have presided over cases as a state court judge and a superior court judge, and now I review cases as Chief Justice of the Georgia Supreme Court. I have been involved with cases from A to Z, abandonment to zoning, and many of the letters in between. Now, I am not a social scientist, but I have learned many things, and I am certain that if you legislators, good men and women all, put your primary focus on strengthening, within the ambit of the law, Georgia's families, improving the physical and mental health of our citizens, and providing the young people of our state with the opportunity to obtain an excellent education, you will create a rising tide that will lift all boats and provide the opportunity for happiness and prosperity for generations of Georgians to come. Finally, I want to thank the lady to whom I gave my best closing argument ever when I persuaded her to marry me way back in 1969. Helen, you are my rock, my partner, my best friend, my dear one. You have been with me every step of our journey together and have made me a better man, a better father, and a better judge. Mother, to me you've always been springtime at the Masters. Will you please stand? Thank you. And now I say with all sincerity, from my court, the Court of Appeals, all of Georgia's judges, we say, may God bless each of you. May God bless your families. And may God bless the great state of Georgia. Thank you.
Well done. Well done. Excellent. Thank you very much, Justice Hinds. We appreciate those words, and we appreciate your value as well as you have led the judiciary. I will say, however, that the comments about your lovely wife, Kelly, springtime at the Masters, that's probably the highest compliment you can give, I can assure you, because it doesn't get any better than that, undeniably. Mr. Sergeant at Arms, please escort the Chief Justice, the Superior Court, and the judges of the Court of Appeals from the chamber at this time. Great, thank you. Very good. Yes, yeah, you're good.
Thank you, Governor.
let me have the joint session's attention now. It's my honor to recognize the Senate President Pro Tem, the senator from the 49th.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move that this joint session of the Georgia General Assembly be dissolved at this hour, February 22, 2018.
The President Pro Tem of the Senate has moved that we stand, this joint session stand adjourned. All those in favor will say aye. All those opposed, no. The ayes clearly have it. We stand adjourned.
As the members of the Senate leave, let me remind the House members, the only thing we have adjourned is the joint session. We have a lot of work yet to do. Members of the House will please come to order. We are about to go back to morning orders. We are about to go back to morning orders. Chair recognizes Representative Rick Williams for a morning order. He waves. Chair recognizes Representative Mitchell, Representative Oliver, Representative Shannon, and Representative Stevenson for a morning order. You know, Chair recognizes Representative LaRicchia for a morning order. All right, before, gentlemen, I know we're a little, got a lot going on here with the joint session, but I'm going to come back to the morning orders that I have called one time. And one time only. And if you're not here, then we'll be here tomorrow. Chair recognizes Representative LaRicchia. All members of the House will please give the gentleman your attention and respect.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I rise this morning because I am very concerned about something that happened in this chamber just yesterday. Thought about it last night and this morning coming in, and thought about what happened on House Bill 827, where the minority leader of this House stood in this chamber and took a position against a rural hospital tax credit where 100% of the hard-earned money of taxpayers of Georgia could be directed to rural hospitals simply because of a political position on another issue. That is the epitome of what our constituents get frustrated with. You will admit from this well that that was a perfect measure, even to the 100% number, and then say, but I'm going to vote against it because I didn't get my way in another conversation. Take every measure that comes before this House standing alone
A good measure gets a good vote. A bad measure gets the same. Mr. Speaker, I'd remove the wheel if they don't have any questions.
Chair recognizes Representative Schofield for a morning order.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker and members of the House. I stand today to present a historical moment in Black history. Miss Mamie Peanut Johnson, a woman pitcher in the Negro Leagues, was a teammate of pioneering Hank Aaron's and amassed respectable 33-8 record in her 3 seasons of play. Born in the small town of Ridgeway, South Carolina, as a young girl, she spent her time pitching instead of working in the field. At the age of 17, this tenacious woman attempted to try out for an all-white professional, all-female team, but was rejected. A woman of perseverance and persistence, she refused to be defeated. Finally, the Negro League's Indianapolis Crows gave her a shot at a pitcher in 1953, and it paid off handsomely for her team. Not only was she an effective pitcher, schooled by the great Satchel Paige, she also hit .270 at the plate. She got her nickname Peanut from Kansas City Monarchs third baseman Hank Bayless, who remarked that a 5'3" woman, and they named her Small Peanut, so she was small as a peanut. In the off season, she attended New York University and earned a nursing degree from North Carolina A&T before going on to a 30-year career in nursing, so she did both. She was honored by several times before being drafted by the Washington Nationals in 2008. She died at 82, but she was a woman that refused to quit. Thank you. Yield the well.
Chair recognizes Representative Wynn and Representative Park for a morning order.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Good morning, colleagues. Today is Asian Americans Advancing Justice Community Day, and I have the honor of standing before you with my friend, Representative Sam Park. In the last year, we have doubled the number of Asian Americans serving under our General Assembly. And before I was elected, I was actually Representative Park's legislative aide. My favorite thing about being elected is people no longer ask me if I'm Representative Park's wife, girlfriend, or sister. Growing up, my daddy told me I could be 2 things, a doctor or a lawyer. And then he said at the very worst, I could be a pharmacist or an engineer. But instead, I started a nonprofit, and then I became a state representative. So contrary to popular belief, not all Asians are good at math. It is an honor today to recognize the contributions of our Asian American Pacific Islanders to our state, and to recognize we are not a monolithic group. We are the fastest growing racial and ethnic population in the United States, and we are comprised of over 50 ethnic groups, and we speak hundreds of different languages. Among us are professors, business owners, corporate executives, community leaders, entrepreneurs, and yes, doctors and lawyers. Please rise and welcome members of our Asian American Pacific Islander community and our special guests in the gallery, Dr. Anna Kim, Mr. Hung Kim, Ms. Angela Su, Dr. Golbarg Singh Basi, and Mr. Hamid Qureshi. And I would be remiss if I didn't recognize my little sister, who is also here and who did, in fact, become a lawyer. So thank you for your contributions to our state. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Okay, I'm going to ask the House to remain at order. We are about to recognize some very special Georgians. Ask the clerk to read the caption to House Resolution 977.
House Resolution 977 by Representative Hawkins, the 27th, Barr the 103rd, Donahue the 30th, Dubnik of the 29th. A resolution commending the North Hall High School Trojans baseball team for winning the 2017 Class AAA State Championship, and commending the North Hall High School Trojans wrestling team for winning the 2018 Class AAA Dual State Championship, and for other purposes.
Chair recognizes Representative Hawkins for an invite resolution.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and thank you to the members of the House. I'm very fortunate to live where I live. I live in rural North Hall, and our high school is a rural high school. And this past year, our baseball team and wrestling team won state championships, #1 in the state. Pretty unusual for small rural schools. We got some great folks up there, and I'm very proud to be part of that community. Today we have joining us David Nichols, who's the head coach, Pat Holcomb and Mike Whitmire, the assistant coaches, Dina Carlton, who's head of the Takedown Club, senior wrestler John Pedraza, and we have the rest of the wrestling team up there in the gallery. Would you please give them a hand? And Coach, would you say a few words?
First of all, I'd like to say thank you, Mr. Speaker, and ladies and gentlemen of the House, for having us today. And I would just like to say what an honor it is to lead these young men in representing the community of North Hall. So we appreciate the recognition and you having us down here today.
Thank you.
House will be in order. The clerk will read the caption to House Resolution 1158.
House Resolution 1158 by Representative Bentley of the 139th, Hardin of the 148th, Dickey of the 140th, and Rutledge of the 109th. A resolution recognizing and commending David Reagan and for other purposes.
I'm going to introduce Representative Bentley here in a moment, but word had it that there was a driver here at the Capitol yesterday who only thought there was one legislative chamber. And we were not aware that he was here, and he didn't come see us. So I don't know about y'all, but I think I'm going to pull for David Reagan on Sunday at the Atlanta race. So Chair recognizes Representative Bentley for an invite resolution.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and good afternoon, colleagues. I am so proudly stand here this afternoon to introduce to you a special Georgian, David Reagan, all the way from Dooley County, Georgia, Unadilla, the city of Unadilla, son of former NASCAR driver and Georgia native Ken Reagan. And David is looking forward to a big event this weekend down in Henry County. So I'm going to step aside and let you hear from Georgia's very own David Reagan.
Thank you. That was a good introduction. I might take you to the racetrack this weekend and let you introduce me there. But you know, the Reagan family's ties to Georgia run deep in the state. Over 200 years, we've had family in Georgia, and a lot of them have been involved in auto racing and racing around the country. So I'm honored to call Georgia home. I've still got a house in Unadilla. My parents live in Perry, so I'm a Georgia rooted family man. We travel all around the country, and I'm proud to represent the state of Georgia as we can, as best we can, throughout the NASCAR season. So we're proud to be racing this weekend at Atlanta Motor Speedway, and I'll be making my 400th start this weekend at AMS. It was a miracle that I was able to make one, and thank you, and certainly a neat thing to make 400. So thank you to all you ladies and gentlemen for honoring us today and recognizing the 400 starts and what NASCAR means to the state of Georgia. We're going to have a lot of fun, and if I win this weekend, we're just going to make this a yearly thing. So thank you for having me. Look forward to meeting some of you guys and girls, and come watch us race this weekend at Atlanta. Thank you. Thank you. Yep, thank you.
Clerk will read the caption to House Resolution 1082.
House Resolution 1082 by Representative Jackson, the 128th, Frazier, the 126th, Williams of the 168th, Hughley of the 136th, and Smyrie of the 135th. A resolution recognizing and commending Mildred Virginia Millie Jackson for her many accomplishments in the music industry and for other purposes.
Chair recognizes Representative Mac Jackson for an invite resolution.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Today I rise to recognize an adopted cousin from District 128. She hails from McDuffie County, Miss Millie Jackson. She has sold over 6 gold albums and sold over 500,000 copies. And I invite you to welcome Miss Millie Jackson.
Thank you, thank you. It's such a pleasure to be here, and I would also like to thank the Speaker, Ralston, and my cousin, Mac Jackson. Did you really do that because we got the same name? I did. That's why you did. Oh, okay, thank you. I know the people down in McDuffie County, if they know about this, they're scratching their heads right now, saying to themselves, who? Why? What did she do that I didn't do? But I do appreciate this because this is also times when I scratch my head and say, why? I haven't done anything but open my mouth and sang and got paid for doing it, but other than that, I can't think of anything that I've really done that deserved this. But I thank you for it. Oh, see, he just told me why. I'm Mac's cousin. And you must always look out for family. Right?
That's right.
Right, okay, all right then. I understand finally.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
I'd like to, but seeing that it is now 12:10 p.m., this house will be in recess for lunch until 1:30, and when we come back, we're going to get onto the rules calendar quickly. Recess till 1:30.